With that, let me go right into the first part of the session. All right. So let me tell you a bit about e-GMAT, the company. As a company, we started in September of 2011, and our sole goal was to help non-natives use the GMAT. Till date, we have over 4,500 students, and we are adding about 300 students every month. Our claim to fame is if you are a non-native, and let me actually ask how many of you are non-natives here. So our definition of a non-native is if you haven't done your higher secondary schooling in USA, UK, or Canada, or Australia, then you're a non-native. You may have done your undergrad over here, you're still a non-native for us. So how many non-natives are here in this webinar? And guys, you've taken the time out to attend this session. Make sure you participate. That's the only way you can get the most out of this session. So. And for those of you who've joined this session or webinar on tablets, you can still respond to poll questions. That shouldn't refrain you from doing that. Okay, let's get about 150 responses. We have 136 right now out of the 225 attendees. Okay, 140. Let's get 10 more. 140. All right, great. 149. 150. Wonderful. So we do have about 90% of your non-natives, and if you look at GMAT Club, which is where we are one of the premier partners over there, we have more reviews by non-natives than any other test prep company. The reason why we believe we are very successful with non-natives is, again, our entire course is customized to non-natives, and everything that we do at e-GMAT is fantastically audiovisual. I have a challenge that I throw at a lot of folks. At e-GMAT, we have a very comprehensive free trial. I tell people, go read a book, spend about 30 minutes reading a book, and then spend 30 minutes on accessing the free trial on e-GMAT.com. And my challenge to them is you'll probably learn more in those 30 minutes that you spend on e-GMAT.com and retain more 3 to 4 days down the line. I'd say about 3 to 4 times more than you would learn from reading a book. A core thing that makes e-GMAT as successful as we are with non-natives is the people, and we'll talk a bit more about them. But overall, one of the things that we've always said is we want to hire the best and the brightest, and we want to make sure that they work full time towards their success, which is very, very different from the route most of the other test prep companies take, where they have very few people who work full time, less than 10% of the people who work full time, and a majority of their staff is part time. We believe learning overall is at a cusp of at a point where we can do a ton of innovation, and to make sure that we are able to do so, we need folks who are full time. We need folks who are fully committed to this, and that's why I believe we've been so successful with our students. Again, I mentioned more non-native success stories. Here is some data. Again, this is just based on the review section of GMAT Club. You can go over there and count. But again, what you see is way ahead of where other folks are in terms of success with non-natives. Apologies for the squished image. I guess PowerPoint. But overall, in addition to more success with non-natives, we also have the most debriefs on the Share GMAT experience section. And again, this number is about 2 weeks old. We've added about 5 more success stories to this. Here's a brief introduction of the e-GMAT faculty. Again, I welcome you to go to the About Us page on our website, and you can read about the faculty. But one thing that I'll tell you is all of us have been toppers in this field. All of us are here at e-GMAT because we love to teach and we love our students' success. And again, unlike most of the other teachers, where teaching for the GMAT is a way to earn some extra money, for us, it's a passion. For us, the emails that our students send us when they improve their scores are what I say is the core reward out of this. So in terms of the courses that we offer, and I think I'm almost towards the end of my presentation, we fundamentally offer two kinds of courses. The first course that we offer is called Verbal Online, and think of Verbal Online as a book replacement for students who want to study at their own pace, but want something that is fantastically audiovisual or something that's way more efficient than reading from a book and way more comprehensive. Verbal Online actually fits that. It's the world's most popular online course. And again, it has more reviews on GMAT Club than any other online course. Uh, and that includes courses from any company, including Manhattan GMAT, Kaplan, etc. So again, if you are a self-paced learner, if you want to learn at your own pace, if you want to ace the GMAT in less than 30 days, this is the course for you. Verbal Live Prep is the world's most comprehensive classroom or live classroom. And again, Verbal Live Prep is for those who really want a bit of handholding during their prep, who want guidance throughout their prep. And it's probably the world's most successful live course. And when I say live, I mean a lecture such as this one, where you can hear a live instructor. Fundamentally, what Verbal Live Prep does is it actually includes everything that Verbal Online has to offer, which includes our fantastically audiovisual courses. It adds 36 hours of live sessions to it. It adds 3 workshops. Verbal Online includes 1 workshop, and it adds a score improvement guarantee. Let me ask another poll over here. How many of you are retakers in out of the 240 or so participants here? How many of you are retakers? A retaker is someone who's taken the GMAT already once and is planning to take it twice or thrice, or is taking the GMAT for the second or the third time. Okay, about half of you are retakers from the 133 or so folks who've responded to this question. For retakers, Verbal Live Prep offers a fantastic guarantee, which is a 4-point score improvement guarantee. The guarantee is very, very simple. What it says is if you have an official GMAT score, let's say you've scored, we guarantee that if you take Verbal Live Prep, go through all the live sessions or the recordings, your score would improve by 4 points. So you get a 36 on Verbal. If you don't do so, you get your money back. This is kind of the November batch of Verbal Live Prep. We are actually over here, as I said, today is November 23rd, Saturday, and we have a session going on in parallel. So we're very soon starting our December batch, which actually will start right from next week, November 30th, and it'll end on the 19th of January. So any one of you who's interested in the Verbal Live Prep syllabus or live sessions calendar for the November batch, you can download it over here. Just select the file and download the same. And I think with that, this is kind of the last slide of my intro presentation. Verbal Live Prep actually, if you compare this to any other course, it offers more than what any other course offers. And again, one of the things that I want to make sure is we and Newton are probably 2 companies that provide a money back guarantee. There are other companies who say they provide a guarantee, but the guarantee is to retake the course. With us, you can if you don't like it, if your score doesn't improve, you can get your money back. What's the guarantee for first-time takers? Okay, dear Dev, the guarantee, we don't have a guarantee for first-time takers because, frankly, it's difficult to establish a baseline. But one thing that I'll tell you is that the first-time takers, based on their first mock, improve a lot more than retakers, just because here's how I'd like to think about here's how I'd like you to think about the guarantee. If we can guarantee a 4-point score improvement to someone who's prepared for the GMAT once, who's already sat in the exam once, imagine what kind of guarantee would we be able to provide if you've not even taken the GMAT. I'll give you some instances of retakers where we've seen the improvement. We had a student, Sandeep, very recently, but less than a month ago. He improved from a verbal score of 21, which is about 30 percentile, to a verbal score of 41, which is 93 percentile. We had a few first-time takers who improved from, 19 to 34. So yeah, Jagat, how about upgrade from online to live? You can upgrade it. Just write to us at Rajat at egmat.com or Pile at egmat.com, and e-gmat, that is, and we'd be happy to help you with that. Let me just send that. Let me see if there's any other question. Yeah, schedule for the December batch. We'll provide you in an email very soon, Anand. All right, with that, let's move into the second part of this session, and over to you, Payal, from here. Thank you very much, folks.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the RC session. And let me just make sure you can hear me okay. I know I've done my voice test when Rajat and Neeti did theirs. So please answer yes if you can hear me okay. All right, sounds good. And if during the presentation any one of you loses the audio or the presentation on the screen, just log back in. At times it's the connection issue at your end. And if the problem, usually the problem is not at all global. So if it is, then again we will take the appropriate measures. But please log back in whenever you face any issues with the audio or the presentation. So with that, let's get right into our session. Welcome all of you. We are really very excited to conduct this session. It's been really fun putting this all together for you guys. Now, before I go any further into the subject matter of this session, I want to set the expectation for this session really very clear. And for that, I'm going to ask you a few questions so that I understand what is your current RC approach. So I'm going to put questions one by one, or probably one after the other here. So I urge all of you to basically take the time to answer to put in your responses here, because that'll just help us understand where you are coming from in terms of your RC preparation, or where you are at right now in terms of your RC preparation. So let's get right into it. And I have, I think, 3 more poll questions coming up. And one thing that I tell all my students is you have taken out the time to attend the session. So please make full utilization of that. Please be as responsive as you can, answer all the poll questions that I ask you, because that's the way that we interact with you. So please keep the interaction communication channel open with us, and believe me, it's a lot of fun. So okay, I think this is my last question here. And I will broadcast all the results, and we will be discussing them either right away or probably as we go into the subject matter portion of the session. Okay, so I'll give you a few seconds to put in your responses, and then we'll get right into the discussion of it. Okay, so last few seconds. Good, I'm happy with the number of responses. So thank you so much for cooperating with me here. Okay, so let's broadcast the results one by one, and then we'll discuss them. What's your current accuracy level in RC? I see about more than half of the class has accuracy level of less than 60%. And we are here to change that to bring you upwards of 70 or 80%. That's what my goal would be through this session and through the e-GMAT RC course. About 30% of you are right there in 60 to 70%. And yes, the goal for you guys should also be to improve beyond 80%, or at least get into the 70 to 80% bracket. So, all right. So that gives me a good enough idea about where you guys are at in terms of, this group here, in terms of your accuracy level. Okay, so let's move to how long have you prepared for RC? Let's end the poll here. Some of you have about 40% of the class has just prepared for 15 days. So I would say you guys are almost, starting off with RC. A lot of you, about 40% of the class has actually prepared for either 2 or more months. So I gather you are probably the retaker category who have prepared once before, at least once before. Okay, so sounds good. Uh, let's go right ahead here. How much time do you spend in answering RC questions? Interesting question, and majority of you, almost 50% of you, take about 8 minutes to answer one RC question with 3 questions. Okay, fair enough. It's good that there are very few who take less than 5 minutes, because I don't believe that's enough time. Again, depends on the passage. If the passage is easy, then yes, you can, if the passage is easy enough for you, you can obviously attempt the passage in less than 5 minutes. But yes, typically anywhere between 7 to 8 minutes is what I'd like to see. So good job there. All right. What percentage of this time do you spend in reading the passage? So here, 60% of about 36% of you are saying that you spend 60% of time. In remaining, so majority of you spend less than 60% of time in reading the passage. So we'll hold off on that. I'm not going to, sorry, I didn't broadcast the results. I'm not going to comment on that. We'll hold off on this on this poll, and we'll come back to it as we progress in the session. Likewise, let's quickly look at the results for the process that you follow. We have 3 different processes here. One is that you quickly, read the first line and the last line of each para, and then get back to the pertinent portion when you look at the question. So before you, so you don't understand the complete passage before you look at the question. So there are few of you who follow that approach. Then there's another, about 30% of you skim through the passage, so you don't necessarily get the entire essence of the passage. So you would skim through the passage, get some idea, maybe about 50 or 60% of the passage idea probably, and then you will look at the questions, and then after looking at the question and the choices, you will go back to the passage and reread that and then answer the question. So about 1/3 of the class is about 1/3 of the class follows that process. Majority of you, about 60% of you, which I'm really happy to see, at least on paper, that you guys read and summarize each paragraph before answering the question. So for those of you who are able to successfully follow this approach, very good for you. I hope you follow this approach in the passages that we are going to discuss now. And for those of you who are not following that approach, absolutely fine. You do not have anything to worry about. In this session, that's what my goal is. My goal is to tell you what the optimum approach for reading comprehension is for a typical non-native person. Okay, so that's what my goal is. My goal here is not to get your accuracy right up greater than 80% through this session, because that's not humanly possible. My goal is to give you the right techniques of approaching reading comprehension. My goal is to introduce you to the right way of learning reading comprehension, so that you take away that message from this session and then streamline your preparation method to incorporate those methods, to incorporate those study methods. Okay, that's what my goal is, and I need your cooperation to help me achieve this goal. Okay, so with this, let's get right into the next part of our session. So first of all, thank you so much for being so responsive in these poll questions. What we're going to do next is I'm going to show you a passage. So you will, so in this whole session, just to give you a bit of an idea about the extent of work that we're going to do in this session, we have 2 passages. Both the passages are, I would say, 700 plus level. Okay. And the reason for that is I know that some of you are have not prepared for RC for that much amount of time. But the point is, because I want to tell you what the right approach of attacking RC is, the main litmus test for any approach is how it works on difficult questions. Because for an easy question, a not so perfect approach can work very well because the question itself is easy, right? So if I have to convince you guys that okay, one approach is better than the other, then I have to prove it to you guys. So that's the reason why we have two rather difficult passages in this session. So please do not get discouraged if you're not able to answer those questions correctly, because remember what the goal of this session is. It is to give you the right approach. Okay. What we're going to do is you're going to first solve the questions pertaining to passage one all by yourself. I'm going to give you about 6 minutes to read the passage. You will see the first question as well when you are looking at the first passage. So for each question, I'm going to give you 1.5 minutes. So to read the passage, you'll get 6 minutes. To answer the question, you'll get 1.5 minutes, and then I'll show you the other two questions pertaining to that passage. Okay, and then after that, we're going to discuss the results. So I'm going to show the performance of the class, share the performance of the class, and then I'm going to go over the detailed analysis of this particular question, how I, as an RC expert, would solve that particular question so that we can all learn together about the right approach. Okay, so with this, let's get going into the passage. And so are you guys ready for the first passage? Okay, sounds good. Okay, so give me just a minute to set that up here. Passage one. I will change the font color, don't worry. So let me just show you how this window works. So you will see the passage here, and you see the scroll bar here. So please feel free to scroll down. The passage is about 400 words long. Okay, you still have the Q&A part here, although I would encourage you guys not to post anything in the Q&A part. Focus on the passage in question. You will see question poll over here. So you see the question stem and the choices alongside. And for your convenience, I've added this poll here. Mark all the choices that you can eliminate. So it just helps to have a visual aid here to keep track of the choices that you are able to eliminate. Now, let me see. Are you guys able to see the screen? Because I'm getting a few questions here saying that you're not able to see the screen. No, I'm not talking about the white font. If you can see passage one, don't worry about the font here. Yes, I am going to change that, guys. I am going to change that. I didn't want you to start reading the passage while I was giving you instructions because I haven't started the timer yet. Okay, so answer the poll questions. Answer yes if you can see the two poll questions on the side and you can see the passage one. Okay, I think you guys are still a little confused about. Okay, so here is the window here. Okay, now can you see it? Okay, you still can't see the screen. Okay, let me just refresh the screen. So just okay, how about now? Okay, good. Sounds good. All right, so there you go. I'm going to open the poll question as well, and your time starts now. I'm going to give you a 10-second warning before I end the poll, okay? There you go. So last 30 seconds, guys, before I show you the next question. Put in your answers. I'm going to end the poll in another 3 seconds. All right, 3, 2, 1. All right, and I'm going to show you your next question. And guys, you can always scroll down the window in order to see the last choices, the last few choices in case they are not visible in the original one. So, all right, let me show you the next one. Here comes your second question. So I'm going to end the poll now. Last question coming up. The time starts now. Okay, last 10 seconds for this question. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So guys, just so I just realized the language of this question may have been a bit misleading. So just so you guys know, you have to select the answer choice that cannot be inferred from the passage. Okay, so I'm going to give you another 15 seconds to put in your responses here. So select the answer choice that cannot be inferred from this passage. Okay, so take another 15 seconds and then I'll okay, I'm going to close the poll now. All right. Now here's what I'm going to do. I think I may have closed, I may not have given you enough warning for before closing the poll for question number 2. So I'm going to bring that up again. Okay, and I'm going to give you about 15 seconds to answer question number 2 as well. Okay, so let me bring back question number 2. So I'm going to reopen that and I'm going to give you 15 more seconds to answer this question. Last 5 seconds. Okay, I'm going to end the poll now. All right. Okay, pretty interesting. And let's go back into our presentation. And how was your experience? So enter your response here. How was your experience? Exhausting. Okay. Okay. Now, tell me one thing. I'm going to ask one more question here. And what process did you follow here? So type in here. So again, what my question is, what process did you follow here? So let me reopen the poll. Okay, skimming the passage, just read thoroughly, summarize each, read and eliminate. Okay. All right. So this was a difficult question. Okay, so let me tell you what is the optimum approach for RC. Now, clearly, this was a difficult passage, and the performance shows that way. The first two questions, the accuracy for first question was 40%. So 40% of the class, only 40% of the class got the first question correct. Second question, about 52% of you got that correct. And the last question, only 16% of the class got correct. And I'm not going to show you what the correct answer is just yet. I will discuss this, and as we understand the passage, I may give you another chance to answer the question. And then we will see that if with the improved understanding, whether you're able to solve the question correctly or not. So that's the reason why I'm not giving you the correct answer. But again, only question number second was answered correctly by at least 50% of the class. But the remaining two, again, less than 50%. In fact, question number three was answered correctly only by 16%. So what is the optimum approach for RC, you may ask? The optimum approach is you should first read and comprehend the passage well enough that you can create a passage summary. Okay. Before looking at the answer choices, you have to make sure that you understand the passage good to a certain degree, and to what degree that you can, summarize the whole passage in your own words. Okay. Now you may not understand, each and every detail in the passage. That is still okay, but you should be able to understand the intent of the author, why the author has presented that particular detail. And again, I will come to the detail part as well. Okay, but again, overall, when you read the passage, you have to understand it to a degree that you can create a passage summary. Okay. Next, after that, when you read the question, you should be able to pre-think the answer. Okay. Now, when it comes to questions such as main point questions, inference questions, you should be able to pre-think the answer. Okay, that's absolutely vital. Looking at the question and just going back into the passage without having a preconceived idea about what is it that you're looking for is a recipe of disaster. Okay, recipe for disaster, sorry. So again, always pre-think the answer. Now, yes, I do understand that for certain, say if you have a global inference question, you cannot pre-think all the possible inferences, and we don't expect you to do that. That's a waste of time. But again, wherever the technique requires, you should pre-think the answer. So for that matter, you need to know the appropriate approach for answering each and every question type in the RC. And lastly, you should eliminate the answer choices. Now, when you get to the review of the answer choices, that's when you have complete idea of what the passage is talking about. You know what the correct answer should look like, and at this point in time, you should be looking at the answer choices. You should be able to evaluate the answer choices so that you know that okay, this choice is clearly wrong because of such and such reason. This choice is wrong because of such and such reason. You should be able to eliminate the answer choices on solid grounds. This is the optimum approach for RC. There are no shortcuts here. There is no looking back. Oh, let me just skim the passage real quick. Look at the answer. Look at the question. Look at the answer choices. Maybe I'll get a clue from the answer choices, or maybe I'll get a clue from the question as to what the question is asking, as to where to look for the answer. That doesn't work. Okay, that may work on easy questions, but believe me, it's not a fishing exercise. You are not there to find a word. You're not there to find a certain context in the passage. Okay, it's not a treasure hunt. RC is a test for your comprehension to check how well, given a particular set of paragraphs, how well can you understand the information presented in that? How well can you infer things from that? Okay, how well you can understand the main objective behind writing the passage. Okay, and again, if you put this in the context of how these skills will be utilized down the road when you are doing your MBA, there is a direct implication there, right? When you're doing an MBA, you will be given case studies. Now, what are case studies? Case studies are nothing but long RC passages along with a lot of a bunch of chart, a bunch of tables, right? Now you will need to analyze that. And that's what GMAT is testing. How well you can analyze the given passage and how well you can extract and infer information from that. Okay. Given that, there is no fishing there. You have to understand the intent, and only then you can answer the questions appropriately. Okay. So, any questions about the approach, the optimum approach for RC? Okay, seems like no questions. Good. Okay. So let's get into now. Now, what the process does is the process actually improves your accuracy. How? Because you won't have to reread the passage, because after you look at the passage, you will be absolutely clear about what the passage is talking about. The need to read the passage again and again is eliminated. Even when you have to reread the passage, it will be from the perspective of answering the question in the light of what you already understand from the passage. So it's not like you will be reading that particular part of the passage to understand for the first time what that part of the passage is talking about. It will be to put the question in context of what is there in the passage. Okay, so again, when you have a good idea about what the passage is talking about, the whole experience of RC becomes very smooth. Okay, and it actually ends up saving time. How? Because you won't be needing to go back and forth between the passage and the answer choices. Okay, now with that being said, as you remember, about 60% of you said that you understand that your approach is to understand the passage, summarize it in your own words, and then move on to the answer to the questions. So why is it, if 60% of the class said that, why is it that the accuracy for this particular question was not upwards of 60%? Okay, the reason for that is that even though you think that you would get into the passage thinking that you will summarize the passage, but given that the passage may be of an unfamiliar topic, or given that there may be difficult vocabulary in the passage, or maybe you're not really that much of an active reader, okay, that these three factors may lead to you not comprehending the passage. And when you're not able to comprehend the passage, you will falter in RC. And that is what happened, possibly happened in this question. And again, we'll know for sure as we move along into the analysis of this question. Okay. Now, what do I mean by active reader? By active reader, what I mean is that when I read a sentence, I immediately contextualize that. I immediately understand the meaning of that sentence. And then when I read the sentence right next to it, I put the previous sentence in context of what I'm reading next. So I'm building the story of the passage in my mind as I am reading it. Okay. I'm summarizing the passage in my own words as I'm reading it, so that by the time I get to the end of the passage, I just can quickly go look at my summary real quick of each and every passage and get a complete holistic idea of what the author intended to communicate through this RC passage. Okay, that's what active reading means. Okay, reading, thinking that, okay, this is the passage that you have to explain standing in front of, say 20, 30 people in your office, for example. If you have that intent to read the passage, to read and understand the passage, that's when you become an active reader. Okay, when you feel that there are things at stake, that if you don't understand a particular passage, a particular paragraph in the passage, it will have an impact on your accuracy. Okay, that's when you become an active reader. When you're reading each and every line and you're putting it into the context of what you just read. Okay, now, again, you may be good at certain passages. For example, you may be good at, say, if you are from science background, you may be good with passages, say, which are technology-based passages. But you may find difficulty in, say, anthropology-based passage. Now, that happens, and for that, you have to obviously get used to reading the passage in the appropriate manner, so that whatever be the topic becomes irrelevant, really. And that's where the reading strategies come into picture, and that's what that's what we're going to discuss next after we are done discussing the other two reasons as to why people falter. The next reason, apart from, say you understand the passage well, now you are given a question which is, say, a structured question. You have no idea how to answer that question. Yes, you have a decent understanding of the passage, but given the question, you don't know how to approach that. Okay, that may happen. Now, that's an easier problem to fix because that's more of a focused problem. You have problems with structured question. We'll give you a concept on structured question so that you no longer have that problem. Okay, but again, recognizing the problem that you have is very, very important. Okay, and that's where I'm giving you this kind of a framework, so that when you are analyzing your RC performance, you understand where is it that you faltered. Did you falter? Did you not answer this question because you couldn't comprehend the passage? Now that's a bigger problem, which again, there is a solution to that, but you need to recognize the problem first, okay? Or is it that you understood the passage well, but you didn't know how to approach the question? Or lastly, you just made a silly mistake. Now, a silly mistake could happen, typically happens when you are not able to evaluate the answer choices appropriately. Okay, you basically look at uh, so when you look at the answer choices, you are evaluating them, and you kind of don't perceive a particular word in the manner in which it should have been perceived. Okay, that's when you commit silly mistakes. So again, silly mistakes typically happen when you're not able to evaluate the answer choices appropriately. Okay, now maybe when you're not able to evaluate the answer choices completely, it may not be a silly mistake. It may be that you have certain issues of contextualizing the information in the answer choices with regards to what you read in the passage. Okay. And again, we will be talking about that a bit when we discuss the questions in detail. Okay. So can you think of any other idea why you would falter in RC? Or do these seem more, or do these cover about, say, 80% of why you would falter in RC? You can answer. Yes, time constraint. Now, okay, very, very interesting. Getting lost in details, that is not able to comprehend the passage well. Okay, so I'm going to end the poll. Thank you for bringing that up. Misread the question, that's a silly mistake, right? You didn't read the question appropriately. Reading speed and time pressure, that is not comprehending the passage. It's not a separate problem. It is not being able to comprehend the passage. Okay, because you are not applying the right strategies to understand the passage. Then you have get stuck at two choices. Whoever wrote that, getting stuck at two choices is never a problem that you can solve. It's not there is a reason behind why you would get stuck at two choices. It's either you didn't understand the passage appropriately, or you are not able to evaluate the answer choices. Okay, getting stuck at two choices is not the direct reason, is not a direct cause of you faltering in RC. That is an absolutely important point that all of you should understand, because a lot of times what I get is people would come to me and say, I've prepared for RC or I've prepared for SC. I am able to eliminate three answer choices, but I get stuck with the last two answer choices. And they give themselves credit for eliminating the three answer choices. Don't give yourself credit. You are overselling yourself. You are overselling yourself in terms of your skill level in that particular question for that particular section by saying that I can eliminate three answer choices. I get stuck with two. That is the biggest damage. That's the worst thing that you can do to your preparation, by giving yourself credit for eliminating three answer choices. Okay, what this tells me is that you have a bigger problem to solve. You have not understood what the root cause behind you getting stuck at two answer choices is. Okay, all right, so whoever wrote that, thank you so much for writing that, because that's a pretty big problem that I see. Okay, all right, now let's move on to our next part. So how is it that you should comprehend the passage? You have to apply for a non-native to be able to comprehend any passage in the manner that they should comprehend, to the level of the comprehension that is needed. You should apply these seven key reading strategies. Okay, and I'm going to list these strategies one by one. Okay, the first one is get immersed in the passage. Now, you may think that it's more of a theory kind of thing, that what does getting immersed in a passage mean? Yes, I have to read a passage. I have to read a passage. I have no other choice. But getting immersed in a passage means that you should feel passionate about that topic. Even if you're not interested in it. Say you're not interested in learning about anole lizards, for example. You have no idea what anole lizards are. You don't care about them. You still, for those 5 to 6 minutes, for those 8 minutes when you are answering the questions pertaining to that passage, those anole lizards should mean the world to you. That's what I mean by getting immersed in the passage. You should think, whenever you see a passage, whether or not the topic is of your interest, you should feel that, okay, this is a topic that I have to understand no matter what, so that I can explain it to a group of 20 people in my meeting, for example. Okay, that's how much you should get immersed in the passage. And believe me, I have done this mistake myself. I would see a passage long back. I would see a passage, and I would basically it would be, say, from a topic of history topic, which doesn't interest me at all. And I'd be like, okay, I have to read it. Painstakingly, I'll just go through the motions of reading the words. Believe me, I wouldn't get a word of a passage. Okay, so it's absolutely important that you get immersed in the passage, and that's the first and the foremost thing you should do for any passage that you're not interested in. Make sure that you are interested in it. Okay, think about, okay, what all could the author talk about? Read the first line, see what topic it is from, and then think, okay, the author is setting the stage. What all do you think that the author may talk about in this passage? Think about that. Pre-think that so that you get in the author's mind. Okay, that's absolutely important. Okay. Next strategy, summarize and predict what comes next. You read a few lines. Okay. I'm not going to tell you how many lines you read because it varies from person to person. It varies from passage to part. So it depends upon the passage person combination. For example, if I, being from a science background, if I'm reading a science-based passage, I would say be able to read 4 to 5 sentences without having any information overload in my mind, and then I'll pause and summarize what I just read. But if I'm reading, say, women emancipation topics or history, humanities related topic, I would read that passage, but after every 2 3 lines, I would need to stop and summarize what I just read. Okay, so where you pause, so the idea is that you should read a set of lines. It may be that you read just one line at a time and you summarize it in your own words, or you may read 2 or 3 lines together, depending upon how comfortable you are with that particular topic. But the idea is to read a set of lines, summarize it in your own words, and then think about, okay, what else what could the author say next? That's what makes you completely engaged in the passage. That's what makes you an active reader. Okay, and quite often, I mean, these things may appear very trivial to you guys, but believe me, these little things are what make a difference in how quickly we become an active, engaged reader. Okay, next one, predict the thoughts through keywords. Now, the great thing about RC is that the authors of GMAT passages, they are good writers. When I say good writers, they follow the appropriate writing strategies in order to present the passage. It's not like they'll grab bunch of sentences from here, bunch of sentences from there, and put it together. They don't just collate information. They stitch the information in the manner so that reading becomes very, very logical. Okay, you should exploit that. What I mean by exploiting that is that you should look at certain keywords. Whatever keywords the author is using, you should use those to your advantage so that you predict what the author may say next. When you do that, when you get in the habit of doing that, you basically are thinking like the author, and that's when you are kind of walking with the author while you're reading the passage, and you are thinking about you are into the mind of the author. Okay, and that's what basically helps you in actively reading the passage. Okay, and I'll show you all of this in action when we do the analysis for the first passage. Okay, shorten the technical terms and names. This is more of just just a handy tool when you read say long terms which are totally unfamiliar to you. You're probably reading those for the first time in this RC passage, and you may not read them ever again in your life. So again, the idea is not to gain all that knowledge so that you can reproduce that later, because all that is technical knowledge which may not be relevant to you. So you should understand the gist of that, shorten that technical term, so that when you see it next, your brain is not processing, your processing power of brain is not spent in again understanding what that long term means. Okay, so shorten that so that you are utilizing your processing power for something that's more valuable. Okay, but knowing what to shorten is very important. Okay, identify and quickly go through the details. Definitely, the author writes a lot of detail in the passage. Now, you should be able to identify that. What is the detail? quickly go through that because you don't need to understand each and every word in the detail. That's what I meant when I said read and comprehend the passage. You should be able to understand, say, 85% of the passage. The remaining 15% may be some detailed information that you should know the gist of. I'm not saying that you skip the detail completely. You should definitely know the purpose of writing that particular detail, so that when you get a question, because it's very likely that you may get a question on that particular detail, so that when you get the question, you know where to go look for it. And when you are summarizing the whole passage, the detail has a purpose in the passage, right? So when you're summarizing the whole passage, you should know why the author presented that detail, and you should be able to incorporate that in the summary. Okay, so it's very important. When I say skip the detail, it doesn't mean that you completely skip and you don't even read that. Read that part quickly, understand the purpose behind that part, and then make a note of it and then move ahead. Okay, that's what we mean by skip identifying and quickly going through the details. The next one is understand sentence structure, and I apologize for this misplaced D here. Now this is not an essay session. Yes, sentence structure basically helps you. What we mean by sentence structure is that you will get long sentences in the passage. You know, at times I've seen a paragraph consisting only of two sentences. Okay, so you should be able to break those sentences down. You know, be open to breaking the sentence down into smaller chunks so that you can understand the meaning of those sentences. And this is a very critical core skill that we teach in our sentence correction course, and that's the reason why I mentioned sentence correction early on. So again, you know, be sure that you utilize that particular core skill here when you see any long sentence, okay? Because that just helps you put everything. That just helps you understand the meaning, okay? Last one is infer the meaning of difficult words. And I saw when you guys did the first passage, a number of you said that vocabulary was really very difficult here. Now, believe me, you don't even need to know a lot of, I mean, there'll be words that will be alien to you. You may be reading those words, not technical words I'm talking about here. I'm talking about proper English words. You may be reading those for the first time when you read that passage. You should not get bogged down by that. You should not get scared of that. What you should do is, from the context of the passage, from the lines before and after that particular word, from why the author has used that particular, what the author could be talking about here, by doing that, you should be able to infer the meaning of those words. And that's a very, very important skill, which is absolutely essential for you to develop. Okay. Now, these are the 7 reading strategies that we talk about in our RC course and that we drill into the minds of the students when they go through our RC course. Okay. And believe me, if once you master these reading strategies, there is no looking back. Any passage thrown at you and you will be able to ace that passage. Okay. The key thing here is for you to recognize that this is the right approach to RC. Reading strategies, mastering reading strategies is absolutely important. There is no shortcuts. There is no looking at the first line, last line, getting clues, moving ahead. There is no doing that. Okay. You have to get immersed in the passage. You have to actively read the passage in order to be able to do well in that passage. Okay. All right. With this, what we're going to do is we're going to now look at this passage and read this passage the way I would read by applying the reading strategies. Okay. Now, before I do that, these are the reading strategies here. What I want you to tell me is that are these reading strategies absolutely new to you? Do these make sense? I mean, what do you think about this? And also tell me, and again, you can write as qualitatively as you want to. Also tell me that when you read this passage, the passage 1, did you apply, did you intuitively apply any of this? Or now when you would read the passage and in the light of these reading strategies, would that make sense? I mean, would you be able to better understand the passage? So just tell me what you think about these reading strategies. I've been talking since quite some time, so I thought, okay, interesting. Know all of it, but tough to apply. Try applying them. Okay. Okay, just 6 and 7. Okay. Okay, so good. So as you can see here, a lot of and it just helps to understand where see you know that's when you first said that you read and summarize all the passages. I could understand that you at least try to do that, but you're not able to do that, right? And that's the reason why it's very important to know concretely what are the reading strategies that you should apply, and that's what I will tell you. Okay, now for people who are talking about time management, hold that thought. Okay, um, I will talk about time management towards the end of the session. Okay, and okay, so let me go ahead and talk about. Okay, I'm going to clear all this up. Okay, you guys keep talking about time. Guys, let me just say one thing. Hypothetically speaking, you have 6 minutes or say 8 minutes to answer an RC passage. What good is it to not apply these reading strategies because you are worried about the fact that these reading strategies would take more time? What good is it to answer questions incorrectly but answer them in say 7 or 8 minutes? It's no good at all, right? So again, it's very important for you to apply these strategies so that you can understand the passage. Okay, so all right, so now let's go right into our first passage. Okay, let's read the sentence. It is a truism to say that gun owners hysterically oppose controls that are essentially indistinguishable from those they would readily support if the object of regulation were automobiles and not guns. Now, this is a rather long sentence, okay? And when I read the sentence, how is it that I would read it? I would read little parts of the sentence and I would utilize what I know about sentence structure to read the sentence and understand the sentence. So, what would I say? It is truism to say that gun owners hysterically oppose controls. So, gun owners hysterically oppose controls. What kind of controls? Controls that are essentially indistinguishable. Indistinguishable, what does that mean? It means that controls that are similar to certain other things. Okay, what other things? Controls that are similar to those controls that they would readily support. So these controls are similar to controls they would readily support. So who would readily support? The gun owners would readily support when if the object of regulation were automobiles and not guns. So if the cars were being regulated using the same controls, these gun owners will support those controls. But if the guns were being regulated, these gun owners will hysterically oppose the controls. Okay. So when I read this sentence, slowly breaking it down in pausing at the right time, I was able to understand the structure of the sentence and the meaning of that sentence. Okay. Any questions about that? Does reading like this help? Okay. All right. Let me just make sure that you guys can read. Click yes if you can see the passage here, part of the passage. Okay, so for those of you who are not able to see the passage, please go back and log back in. There may be some connection issue with you guys. Okay, but yeah, majority of you can see the passage. Okay, all right. Now, how many of you actually understood the meaning of this line to the level that I've just explained when you read it the first time? Okay, so see guys, if you are not reading appropriately, if you are not pausing at the right time, okay, then you will not be able to understand the meaning. So what good is it to optimize on the time that you spend in reading the sentence if you're not able to understand the sentence? Okay, look at this. Only Less than 50% of the class understood the meaning of the sentence to the level that I just explained. And this level of understanding is absolutely critical, because if you don't understand to this level, then you won't be able to solve the questions. Okay? So you have to make effort to understand the passage to basically get the sense out of it. So it is true. So what is the first line saying? The first line is saying that gun owners oppose controls that they would generally support if cars were being regulated. Okay, so let's go ahead. Yet this irony overlooks crucial differences in the rationale and implications for applying identical control mechanisms to firearms and to cars. Now, tell me something. What is the irony here? What irony is the author talking about here? Type in this poll here. What is the irony? Okay, I got a few correct responses. Different reactions to similar law, that they will accept the same rules on auto but not on guns. Absolutely correct. Different. Okay, good. All right. So that is the irony here. Now look, when I read the sentence, I am putting it into the context of what I just read. Yet this irony overlooks crucial differences in the rationale and implications for applying identical control mechanisms to firearms and to cars. So this thing is basically telling me, so if I look at yet here, it basically tells me that there is a change in direction. What is the change in direction? The change in direction is that, okay, in the first line, the author spoke about the bad thing that gun owners do, right? Gun owners have almost like double standards, right? But now in this particular line, the author is talking about, he's actually justifying the difference in the reaction of the difference in the approach of gun owners towards controls that go that are for guns versus that are for cars. Okay, that's what he's explaining here. Okay, so he's basically saying that gun owners are actually justified in their difference of approach to such controls. So this line is actually talking about a positive thing towards the gun owners. Okay, he's actually siding with the gun owners here. Okay, make sense? Now, with this understanding, we actually go ahead and we look at the next line. What could the author be saying here? The author could be now explaining. Now, you see above all, right? Above all would basically, so far the author has said that, okay, there is an irony in terms of how the gun owners perceive regulations differently, similar regulations differently for firearms and for cars. And then he says that, okay, they may be justified in their difference in opinion. So when you see the word above all, it would mean that he will elaborate on this point now. Okay, so let's go ahead. Above all, automobile regulation is not premised on the idea that cars are evils from which any decent person would recoil in horror, that anyone wanting to possess such an awful thing must be atavistic and warped sexually, intellectually, educationally, and ethically. Now, how many of you understood the meaning of this sentence? I'm not going to tell you the meaning right now. How many of you understood when you read the sentence the first time? It's a rather long sentence, right? So I'm not surprised that you guys had issues really understanding the meaning of the sentence. Now, when I'm reading the sentence, this is how I would be reading it. Now, another question. How many of you actually did not? Okay, let me end the poll here, guys. Here's what my question is. When you look at this expression here, atavistic and warped sexually, intellectually, educationally, and ethically, how many of you got stuck in understanding this sentence because of this long expression, or maybe because of part of this expression? Majority of you got stuck because of this expression. Okay, that's what I guessed. And I don't blame you. It's the atavistic. I look at that word and I'm like, what does that mean? Okay, And that's where, the strategy of inferring the meaning comes into play. All right. Another thing, why does the author use the word such an awful thing? What is such an awful thing? From whatever meaning you understood, what is such an awful thing? Type in the wait. Okay, so type in over here. What do you think is such an awful thing here? Okay, I think I need to get a poll question here because I'm getting multiple different responses. So type in here, car or gun. Okay, what is an awful thing here? Read the sentence and then figure it out. Automobile regulation is not premised on the idea that cars are evils from which any decent person would recoil in horror that anyone wanting to possess such an awful thing. Yes, absolutely correct. Here, car is such an awful thing. Okay. I know you guys changed your responses. Earlier, I basically had about 50-40 mix here, 50-50 mix here, sorry. Um, car is actually such an awful thing. And how do I know that? Because of the way I read the sentence. Okay. Let me just get a note here. And let me paste that here. Okay. So everyone can see this note here. Answer my poll question. Good. Okay. Thank you. So above all, when I read this, automobile regulation is not premised on the idea. What kind of idea? Idea that cars are evils from which any decent person would recoil in horror, that anyone wanting to possess such an awful thing must be atavistic and warped sexually, blah, blah, blah. So here we are talking about the idea. So automobile regulation is not premised on this idea. What kind of idea? That cars are evils, right? That is the essence of this sentence. Okay. You don't really need to know what atavistic blah 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 means. Why? Because what you're saying is that automobile regulation is not premised on the idea that cars are evils from which any decent person would recoil in horror. Okay, that's all the sentence is saying. You don't really need to understand any of this thing here. Okay, so this is why when you read a sentence, you should put, even when you see words that are unfamiliar to you, don't get scared. Try to get the meaning from whatever is around that and try to see that, okay, whether that is actually adding something to the meaning or whether that's just, enhancing the meaning of the sentence. Okay, so over here, when I see this term, what I basically do is, premise of car regulation is different from premise of gun regulation. And that is very, very clear from saying that automobile regulation is not premised on the idea, right? That part is very clear. You can infer that premise of car regulation is different from premise of gun regulation. Okay. Per the passage, car regulation is not premised on the stated idea that actually pertains to guns, right? Guns are actually evil. But here, the passage is written in such a manner that it's saying that its regulation is not premised on the idea that cars are evils. In a way, what the author is saying is that guns are evils, right? So anything additional to that is basically not even pertinent to the thing, because again, what it's saying is that anyone wanting to possess such an awful thing, anyone wanting to possess the car, which is evil, must be someone who's basically a disturbed person. That's all you need to get from it, because you've already said that cars are evils. The way guns are evils, that's what you're saying, that cars are evils. Okay, does this make sense? Select yes if this makes sense. So now, given how we understood the meaning from the context, does it help you to, would you be able to apply that and not get scared by such long, unfamiliar words? That's what you need to do. You need to go by the context. And that's when you can do that when you are actively engaged in the passage. Okay. All right, so let's move ahead. Nor are driver licensing and car registration proposed or implemented. So I'm going to stop here. Okay. I want you to tell me what is the purpose of nor are. When you see the word nor, is it going to change the direction or is it going to, so is the author going to change his direction? So I'm going to pose this question here. So what I'm asking is, when you see the word nor, does it tell you that the author is going to change the direction of his logic, or is he going to go in the same direction? So read how nor is used here and then tell me. Good. Okay, so majority of you are saying that he'll go in the same direction. I want you to explain your answer. Why do you think he's going to go in the same direction? Type in the poll window here. But look at the word nor. Doesn't nor say that it's not? Okay, I got one correct answer here, and let me just end the poll here. Thank you. Is not premised nor are. Absolutely correct. There was someone else also who said the same thing. Negative was stated earlier in the passage. Perfectly correct. Nor are driver licensing and car registration proposed. Now, when you look at the previous sentence, above all, automobile regulation is not premised. Okay, so previous sentence is talking about something in negation, that automobile regulation is not premised on the idea, on the certain idea that is explained, right? So when you see the word nor are, it basically carries on the conversation or the thought process in the same direction. Okay, so he's explaining he's explaining that the purpose of car controls is different from the purpose of the gun control. That's what he's explaining in this entire sentence. And again, to read the sentence, you will need to pause at the right time. That is, you need to break the sentence into its sentence structure. Nor are driver licensing and car registration proposed or implemented as ways to reduce radically the availability of cars to ordinary citizens, or to secure the ultimate goal of denying cars to all but the military, police, and those special individuals whom the military or police select to receive permits. So a lot of words here, but frankly, there's just a list. It's just a list of things here. So again, when you read the sentence, pause at the right time so that you can understand what the sentence is intending to communicate. Okay, so far so good. We understand what the passage is talking about, and at this point also the author is almost, the author is again favoring the gun owners, because why? He's actually explaining why the irony is actually justified. That's what he's explaining. He's explaining why the the gun owners have different perspective towards similar controls for guns and cars. Okay, so we have read the first passage, and what we do is we quickly summarize that into our own words. Yes, the gun owners have opposing views about similar controls for guns versus cars, but their difference in views is justified, or this double standard is actually justified. Why? Because the basis for controls is different and the purpose of controls is different. Okay, so now what I want to ask you is your understanding of first paragraph more clear now? Answer yes or no. Is it more clear than what it was earlier? Okay, good. Answer my question here. What made the difference? How is it more clear? I'm going to clear these responses. How is it more clear? What is it that you would take away from this analysis when you read, say, when you read a similarly difficult passage? You explaining it so well. Thank you so much. Breaking the sentence, breaking down the paragraph, and pre-thinking. Good, good. So again, breaking down the sentence. This is, as I said, this is a core skill that we teach for sentence correction. In fact, I want to ask you one thing. How many of you have actually followed the e-GMAT 3-step process? for SC? Or actually, let me ask you, how many of you are aware of the e-GMAT three-step process? Okay, so I see 50-50 there. Okay, so again, I don't want to go into SC here, although I'm really very passionate about SC. The e-GMAT three-step process is actually one of the core skills that is needed for sentence correction as we talk, as we teach non-natives, is their ability to understand the meaning of the sentence. And again, in SC, you are given just one sentence, right? So we teach you how, by breaking the sentence down into its clauses, you can understand the meaning and you can identify the errors a lot better. Okay. And once you master that skill for SC, apply the same skill here when you're reading an RC passage, so that because RC passage is nothing but a bunch of correct long sentences, right? So for RC, you have an advantage because you know that all these sentences are actually correct. So you don't really have to, find the errors. You don't have to doubt what the author is saying. You know for a given that these sentences are correct. So what you learn as the core skill from SC, how to break the sentence down into its clauses, you can come to RC and directly apply that and reap the benefits of that. Okay. So it's very important that you understand how to break the sentence into its smaller chunks, how you pause at the right time to understand what the meaning of the sentence is. Okay. Yes, it's going to take time. It's not going to happen right. I don't expect that the next passage that I give you, you'll be able to, solve that question in the right amount of time and with the right accuracy. I don't expect that. It's not magic. Okay. But you need to understand what the right approach is, and that's what my goal here is, so that you go back, take that takeaway and practice that. Okay. And then make sure that you are headed in the right direction to the higher accuracy, to achieve higher accuracy in RC. Okay. All right. So let's go on to our to our next one here. Next paragraph here. Okay. But those are the terms many prominent and highly accurate gun control advocates. Okay, I'll just pause here. So far, the author has spoken about how the gun owners have that double standard, and the author is justifying gun owners' stand. Now we see the word "but" here. Now, "but" right away tells us that there is a change in direction, right? Now, tell me one thing. But those are the terms. What terms is the author referring to in this line here? Those are the terms many prominent and highly articulate gun controls. Okay, I'm waiting for you guys to write. Think clearly again, guys. We have spoken about, the author began the last paragraph by saying that gun owners have a double standard. Okay. Then he justifies the gun owners' double standard. Now here it's starting with "but." Okay, so he's justified. So from the author's perspective, he's already justified the gun owner's double standard. Now then he starts off his second paragraph and he says, but those are the terms many prominent and highly articulate gun control advocates use. What terms is he talking about? Okay, so I'm not getting, there are few correct responses, but they are not all correct responses. So in this case, I'm broadcasting the results, but as such, the terms that we are talking about here is stating the argument that gun owners have double standard. Those are the terms that are being talked about here. Okay, saying that gun owners have double standards, that is the term that is being talked about here. Okay, but those are the terms many prominent and highly articulate gun control advocates, and when we see gun control advocates, we should basically abbreviate that and say that GCA. Okay, so terms, as I said, refers to the argument in para 1. What is the argument? The argument is that gun owners use have this double standard. Okay, that is what is the argument. That is what is the terms. Okay, and we have a new term here, GCA, new expression here. So we just abbreviate that GCA because we think that it's going to be talked about in the passage. Okay, so but those are the terms many prominent and highly articulate gun control advocates have insisted on using over the past 3 decades in promoting any kind of control proposal. So what this means is that whenever GCA has to promote any kind of controls against the guns, they will utilize this particular argument, saying that whenever this is a control that we want to incorporate, that we want to implement, but these guys, whenever they but gun owners always are against such controls. Again, had the controls been implemented for a car, they would be very much privy to accepting those controls. But then because it's for the guns, they don't want to implement those controls. So that is the argument that the GCA always uses. Okay, no matter how moderate and defensible it might be when presented in less pejorative terms. Okay, so again, this is the key thing here. The key thing is that the GCA always utilizes the same argument. Okay, and then this part here is a detailed information. But again, over here, what is the purpose of that detailed information? That irrespective of the way in which the GCA phrase their argument, the crux of it remains the same. They may phrase their argument in a bit less harsh terms, but again, they always end up saying that the GCA, that the gun owners have these double standards. That is the key part over here in this sentence. Okay. Now, how many of you understood the meaning of this sentence to this clarity when you first read the sentence? Okay, and I could understand that why you wouldn't be able to understand the meaning here, because you guys didn't understand the terms here. Okay, and again, guys, terms is such a small word. You all know the meaning of terms, but you didn't put it into the context of what you just read in paragraph 1. Okay, and that's what active reading would help you do. Okay, you have to get completely immersed in the passage. Only then you can put these easy terms in the context of what you just read. Okay. Okay. All right. Let's then go ahead. For these advocates, what advocates? The gun control advocates. Just owning a gun is analogous not to owning a car, but to driving it while inebriated. Now, how many of you know the meaning of the word inebriated? Okay. I'm not surprised. Half of the class knows. I would say 60% of the class knows the meaning of inebriated. What is the meaning of inebriated? Type here. Yes, guys. 63 of you said that you know the meaning of inebriated. Okay, good. I hope you guys didn't do a quick Google search on it. Again, it's not that difficult a word. But even if you don't know the meaning of inebriated, you can infer the meaning from the context. So I'll assume that I don't know the meaning of inebriated. Okay, I'm reading this word for the first time. So how do I infer the meaning? I know that GCA, that is gun control advocates, think that the guns are bad, right? Guns are really bad. Now, what they're saying is, for these advocates, just owning a gun is analogous. We all know what analogous mean, I hope. Analogous to not owning a car, but to driving it while inebriated. Okay, so now we are actually drawing a comparison. So the GCA is actually saying that owning a gun is same as driving a car in certain condition. Now, what would be that condition when you are comparing? So here my question. When you're comparing owning something bad to driving something which is not bad, driving a car is not bad. But when you're saying owning a gun, which is a bad thing, owning a gun, a bad object, is being compared to driving a car under certain condition. Driving while inebriated is telling you a certain condition. What condition will that be? Some negative condition. Absolutely right. So some negative condition, or harshly or rashly swaying car. Yes. So again, some negative condition, or certainly not in any responsible condition, because you're talking about driving. owning something bad is being compared to driving a car in a bad condition or in a negative condition or in an irresponsible condition. That's about it. You don't really need to know that inebriated means drunk. Even if you didn't know that, you can still understand the meaning from the context. Does this help? Do you understand that part now? So you shouldn't be scared when you see these words. You shouldn't worry, oh my God, how will I understand the meaning if I don't know the dictionary meaning of this word? Okay, because there is always things in the context. Okay, there's always things in the passage, and that's what you will get when you are actively engaged in the passage. Okay, but when you are reading each word as it stands by itself, you will not be able to understand the passage. So think about this. The author has put together these words. These words together tell a story, right? So you have all the acumen that you need in order to make sense of that story, in order to understand that story. Okay. All right. So then we move ahead. So here what we know is that owning a gun is similar to driving a car when it is driving a car in an irresponsible condition or driving the car in a drunk condition. Because these advocates regard gun ownership as inherently wrong, so you see the word because, it tells you that there is a cause and effect being presented ahead. So because these advocates regard gun ownership as inherently wrong, they do not believe that banning guns implicates any issue of freedom of choice. So again, all the saying is that because GCA consider gun ownership to be wrong, they don't believe that banning guns will hamper any freedom will have any freedom of choice issues. Okay, let's carry on. Nor for the same reason, again you have the word nor and similar usage here. So nor is again going in the same direction, because in the previous paragraph, in the previous line, you said because these advocates regard they do not believe that banning guns implicates. So you're talking about a negative thing in the previous one. Okay, so then we go ahead. Nor for the same reason do they think that interests and desires of those who own or want to own guns are entitled to any consideration. So again, the same reason applies there, but the effect of that, since GCA regard gun ownership as wrong, they do not think that gun owners are entitled to any consideration. Okay, so again, over here, you just have to read the keywords. Interests and desires of those who own or want to own guns are entitled to any consideration. For instance, now you see the word for instance, it tells you that, okay, there will be an example there, and the author will basically expand on the idea of what kind of consideration. Because so far, if you just focus till this point, the author is saying that gun owners are not entitled to any consideration. Now, what kind of consideration? We don't know that yet, right? But then you see the word, for instance, this phrase, you know that the author will now explain what he means by when he says that GCA thinks that gun owners are not entitled to any consideration. Then he moves ahead and he basically brings all these names. Arthur, I won't even try to pronounce that name. So he's just presenting a bunch of names, and these people are who? Who are these people? Type in the chat. Type in the poll question here. Who are these people? Arthur, Harriet, Joyce brothers. Are these gun owners or are these GCA? Yes, these are GCAs. Good, good. I don't know, can't say, that's not the right answer. Supporters of who? So see, we are talking, so again, this is where you have to again put things into context. Who would these people be? We are talking about GCA. The author is presenting the opinion or the outlook of GCA towards gun owners. So it's very likely that he's giving examples of gun owners. He's giving examples of gun control advocates. Okay, so from the context, you should be able to figure that out. All right. So these people deny that interest of gun owners. And again, when you read ahead, deny that interest of gun owners, so these people are talking about interest of gun owners. Okay. So these are GCA. So these people deny the interests of gun owners, deserve respect or consideration on the ground that gun ownership cannot involve real choice, because they argue it is actually only a preconditioned manifestation of sexual inadequacy or perversion. How many of you understood the meaning of this sentence the first time when they read it? So the entire thing, for instance, through this last line. So 50% of the class understood the meaning of this sentence. So tell me the meaning of the sentence here. So for those of you who understood, so I should see about, guys, I'm not seeing that much of participation here. What's going on? I have about 220 people in the class and I only see how many? 66 responses here. Are you guys tired? Okay. Okay, so I'm reading these responses here. Uh, okay, so here, what the author is saying here is that he's presenting examples and he's saying that, these people, they deny that the interest of gun owners deserve respect. So essentially he's reiterating what he said earlier, that gun owners are not entitled to any consideration. So they are not entitled to the respect. On the ground, on what grounds? On the ground that gun ownership cannot involve a real choice, which means that, when gun owners own a gun, they're not actually making a choice. It's actually happening. What these guys are saying is that gun owners decide to own guns because of the stated reasons. That is, because of their sexual inadequacy or perversion. That's what leads them to buying a gun. So, in a way, you're saying that by gun ownership is a preconditioned display of these of these negative qualities in the gun owners. It's a preconditioned, so it's already existing display of sexual inadequacy or perversion. Okay, that's what the author is saying. And again, this is a detailed information. It's an example, right? It's an example. It's a detailed information. So you should try to understand it. Okay, but and again, understanding what the intent of this entire information is, that's more important. And here, that by presenting the example of these guys, the author is basically saying, explaining what does he mean when he say that GCA thinks that gun owners are not entitled to any consideration. Okay, and he's saying that the reason for that is that they don't really, gun owners don't, according to these guys, gun owners don't actually make a choice for owning or not owning the guns. It just happens automatically because of the stated reasons. It's a conditioned display. Okay, so even if you didn't know the meaning of manifestation, you can actually just say that, okay, it just happens because of their sexual inadequacy or perversion. Okay, now with this, we are at the end of our second paragraph, and again, in the second paragraph, you're basically saying that GCA is using the same argument to support all their controls. Okay, and what is the argument? The argument is the irony the double standard that the author presented in the first line of the passage. And GCA considers owning a gun same as driving a car in a rash manner. And GCA considered that owning a gun is wrong. Okay, and again, all of this is basically just an example. Okay, of the point that the author is trying to make. Okay. Now with this, let's move on to our third paragraph. Okay, so in fact, what now you see the keyword in fact. Now tell me, what could the author talk about next? The author has spoken about, in the second paragraph, he's talking about how the what GCA considers gun owners as. Now, what do you think the author will be talking about in this paragraph? Guys, I need more specific responses. I'm not getting, give me more specific. When you say describing further, tell me what describing further means. What will they be describing? Okay, and I'm seeing some good responses here, so thank you for that. In fact, and again, I might change what I have in my presentation here. In fact, it may add information information. And in fact, in this paragraph, that's what is happening. And you'll understand that when you read right ahead, right? But it may also add information contrary to what you've just read. Okay, in this passage, that's not what is happening. But yes, you may head along a certain direction, and then you may say, in fact, this some other study was done, but that's what it was found. But you typically do that when by using contrast words such as but or yet or other things, right? Usually you use in fact to carry on in that same direction. Okay, and that's what is happening in this sentence. In fact, adds along the same direction, and author presented GCA views of gun owners in paragraph 2. So he may present similar views of gun owners in this paragraph, maybe somebody else's views. So let's read ahead. In fact, a definitive analysis of American gun control literature was conducted for the National Institute of Justice by the Social and Demographic Research Institute. So again, all this long sentence is saying is that there was some analysis of some analysis of the literature that was done. From that literature, a study derived the following description of the way anti-gun advocates see gun owners. So this is where now we understand that, okay, how anti-gun advocates see gun owners. So research of the gun control literature was done. From that research, we understood over here that what the anti-gun advocates think of gun owners. Okay. Now, anti-gun advocates, is that a new term, or is that a term that you've already seen um, in the passage? So answer yes. Is anti-gun advocates a new term or an already existing term? It is not a new term. Okay. What we have so far seen is gun control advocates. Now what we are seeing is anti-gun advocates. So in this case, in this paragraph, the author is presenting the views of anti-gun advocates. Now tell me, my answer this question, and let me get my other poll, or I'll just ask you. How are anti-gun advocates and gun control advocates related? Are they on the same side or different sides? Type in here. They are on the same side. Absolutely right. So in a sense, you can actually say that anti-gun advocates. So can I say that? So answer yes or no here. Can I say that anti-gun advocates is a subset of gun control advocates? Yes, absolutely correct. Anti-gun advocates are gun control advocates as well, right? It's just a way of controlling. These guys take an extreme measure and they say we are anti-gun, no guns at all. Okay, that's a way to control guns, right? So yes, you're absolutely right. Anti-gun advocates are a subset of anti-gun control advocates. How many of you, now tell me this thing, how many of you were able to perceive that when you read the passage the first time? Again, only half of the class was able to perceive that, right? Actually, less than half of the class. So, guys, this is where, again, I'm asking these questions not to make you feel bad that you didn't understand this correctly the first time you read it. That's not at all what my that's not at all what my motive is. I'm asking these questions to you so that you understand the importance of reading actively. Okay, it is very, very important. Okay. All right. So thank you for responding, guys. I'm really enjoying this session. I hope you guys are too. You guys are pretty interactive. I'm getting the right kind of responses. So thank you. All right. So let's carry on. Um, Anti-gun advocates see gun owners as demented and bloodthirsty psychopaths whose concept of fun is to rain death on innocent creatures, both and otherwise. Now, this entire bunch of words, list of words, what does this mean? What do anti-gun, so answer over here, what do anti-gun advocates think of gun owners as? Good. Crazy people, psychos, crazy devils, they have a negative opinion. Good. That's a very gentle way of putting it. Bad people, pervert humans. Yes. Okay. Now, let's read the last line. Such a view of gun owners is tantamount to bigotry, for it has no empirical basis in fact. Now, from this line, okay, first of all, tell me how many of you understand the meaning of tantamount to bigotry? Did you understand that? Okay, fair enough. More than half of the class doesn't understand that. Even I didn't understand that. Okay, but looking at the sentence, whose view is being presented here? So type over here, whose view is being presented in the last sentence? Such a view of gun owners is tantamount to bigotry, for it has no empirical basis. Okay, I think I need, wait, hold on, guys. I need to get another poll question here. So here's the poll that I get. Oops, sorry, guys. Okay, so whose view is being talked about here? AGA, GCA, author, gun owners. Okay, here's the poll. So, last line of the sentence, whose view is being talked about? Okay, I'm going to end the poll now. Put in your responses. Okay, guys. Now look at this thing. I will show you the results, but look at this thing here. The author starts off talking about the view of another segment of GCA, that is AGA, right? He talks about that segment. Now he basically presents that their view, they think that the anti-gun advocates, the AGA, think that gun owners are really crazy people. Then he says such a view of gun owners is tantamount to bigotry, for it has no empirical basis in fact. Now, even if you don't understand the meaning of this part here, let's see. Such a view of gun owners has no empirical basis in fact. If I forget about this sentence here, just look at the underlying portion. Such a view of gun owners has no empirical basis in fact. What does that mean? Has no empirical. Isn't that saying that this view, anti-gun advocates' view of gun owners, anti-gun advocates see gun owners as crazy people? This view has no empirical basis, means that it's not based on any data. Doesn't that what it means? So it's kind of, it's kind of mocking at this view. Okay, and this cannot be the view of the AGA, because AGA's view has already been presented. This is the view of the author. Okay, and let me broadcast the results. Only 32% of the class thought that this is the view of the author. Okay, the author is saying this, and that's what you need to understand. When you read the passage, you should know who is talking about this particular thing. And again, this is a core skill which we teach in CR. In CR, when you're reading the argument, you should know whether who's saying a particular statement. Is an entity in the argument making a particular claim, or is the author saying something? Okay, and you basically get that core skill which we teach in our CR course. You apply that in RC. When you're reading a passage, you need to know whose view is being talked about. Okay, is this point clear? Let me clear the, yeah. So is this point clear? Okay. So again, even if you don't know the meaning of tantamount to bigotry, it's okay. That wasn't even important in the context of the sentence. Okay. So let's go ahead. So again, in this whole paragraph, what is being talked about is the AGA view of gun owners that has been presented. It's from a study of literature. For the author, the AGA view is baseless. That's what he's saying. Okay, he doesn't agree with the AGA's view. Okay, now we come to the um, last paragraph of this passage. Of course. Now, what does of course tell me? Of course tells me that now the author's view is being presented. Of course, not disarmament is not the only possible control scheme. So, which means that not all controls call for disarmament or anti-gun. Now, disarmament is the same as anti-gun. So the author is saying, of course, anti-gun is not the only possible control scheme, nor are the anti-gun views that inform it the only policy basis for gun controls generally. Okay, so again, this is just some detailed information. But the anti-gun rhetoric, now you see, so the author is saying that, okay, anti-gun is not the only control mechanism, right? Nor are the anti-gun views the only policy basis for gun controls. Okay, so it's not like all the gun controls should be based on the anti-gun views. That's what he's saying. But so he presents a contrast, which means there's going to be a change in direction. So what is he going to say? But the anti-gun rhetoric remains the most important feature of the public debate over gun control. But the anti-gun views are most popular in gun control debates. For it is the gun control. Now tell me, what I see the word for. What do you expect the author to talk about next? Type in here. What do you think the author is going to talk about next after the word for? He's going to explain it, because absolutely right. He's going to explain. For here means because, absolutely right. For it is the anti-gun rhetoric. So now, what is he giving an explanation for? Let me clear the responses. What is he giving the explanation for? You're right that he's going to give a reason. Reason for what? Why they are an important feature. Why anti-gun rhetoric is the most important feature of public debate over gun control. Absolutely right. So, very good. For it is the gun control rhetoric, for it is the anti-gun rhetoric of so many gun control advocates that plays into the hands of their opponents. What does that mean? Anti-gun views are most popular in gun control debates because these views are used by gun supporters, by gun owners, right? Who are the
Uh, Pyle just lost the internet connection at her end. She would be joining in a couple of minutes.
Okay, I'm back, guys. Can you all hear me okay? Click on yes if you can hear me okay. Sorry about that. I don't know. All of a sudden, for some reason, I think my computer didn't like the gun supporters here. Okay, you guys can hear me okay. All right, thank you. Okay, so I was saying that gun control rhetoric is so important. Is that the anti-gun rhetoric is so important here because it is used by the opponents. Who are the opponents here? The opponents are gun supporters, right? Or people who are gun owners. They are the gun supporters. Then let's go ahead. The gun lobby, that is further clarified to us by saying the gun lobby. The gun lobby is what? That is the gun supporter group. The gun lobby effectively uses that rhetoric to convince gun owners that gun control is synonymous with disarmament because the rhetoric of gun control advocates make it appear as if this is really what all proponents of gun control have in mind when they propose any regulation, and as if their agenda is entirely inspired by the conviction that owning a gun is morally wrong. Now, how many of you understood the meaning of this sentence? And if you understood whatever you, so I can see that, 50% of the class, more than 50% of the class understood the meaning. Now tell me, what does this last line imply? So type over here. What does this last line imply? It's a conclusion, but what is the conclusion? Tell me. How do they manipulate? Absolutely right. Gun supporters use GCA logic against them. And how do they use GCA logic? Now, again, gun control advocates, if you think about it, they are there to control the gun activities, right? It doesn't necessarily mean, looking at the first line here, it doesn't necessarily mean that removing guns altogether is the only way to control guns. But because the gun supporters or the gun lobby uses this anti-gun rhetoric to their advantage, what they end up doing is they end up convincing gun owners that that gun control is synonymous with anti-gun, that is with disarmament. That is the only control. Okay, that's what this last line is talking about. It explains how gun lobby uses the anti-gun views of GCA against GCA. Okay, and again, this is all um, a detailed information. This is all a detailed information, but you need to understand that in by putting it in the context of the passage to be able to make sense of what the author is saying. Okay, so really speaking, in the last paragraph, the author is saying not all controls are anti-gun, but anti-gun views are most popular in debate because of the way the gun lobby uses these views to their advantage. Okay, now with this, now what I'm going to do is I have understood, I have read the entire passage by applying the reading strategies. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my summary of each and every paragraph together and paint the complete picture and try to get an idea of what the author is saying, okay, holistically speaking. So in the first paragraph, we said that the author says that gun owners have this double standard, okay? But then he also says that their double standard is actually justified because the basis for controls for cars and guns is not the same. And also the purpose of doing the controls is different, okay? Then in the second paragraph, he talks about that the GCA uses the same argument to support all their controls, okay? And GCA consider owning a gun same as driving a car rashly, and they consider owning a gun wrong, okay? Then in the third paragraph, he presents a new perspective, not a new perspective, but a perspective of a subset of GCA, that is the AGA view of gun, and their view is also absolutely ridiculous that that gun owners are nasty people. But per the author, AGA view is baseless. So again, we get to know what the author is saying. In the last paragraph, we get to know about the author's view that not all, what he's saying is that not all guns are anti-gun, but anti-gun views are the most prominent because of the way the gun supporters use this to their own advantage. So really speaking, first paragraph, we get to the author introduces an argument against the gun owners, and then he shows how that argument is actually not justified. Okay. Then he basically introduces a group GCA, and he says that this GCA is basically proposes the argument and presents the views of GCA. Then he presents the view of AGAs and says that such views are baseless. In the end, he says that why AG views overpower all of the GCA views, and he shows how gun lobby uses AG views against GCA. Okay, so this is the holistic idea that you get from the passage, and this is what you should be able to do whenever you read a passage. Okay, you should know what each and every paragraph is doing. Okay, now tell me one thing. Given this, now what I'm going to add, where is my question here? Let me just edit this. Now, what I want you to do is, I want you to tell me para 1, 2, 3, 4. I want you to tell me how many of you basically understood how many. So select the paragraph numbers that you were able to understand the gist of the way it is presented here when you read it the first time. Good. A few more seconds. At least half of the class should respond. I have about 73 responses. There are about 200 people in the class. Okay, I won't push for more. Okay, so interesting. So if you look at it, 50% of you were able to get first, second, and third paragraphs, but only 30% of the class was able to get the fourth paragraph. So again, again, it's not surprising because this translates into your performance on the questions, on the three questions, because only, less than 60% of you actually got at least one paragraph correct, right? So surprised to see the performance on the questions. But look at this. Even if I consider that 50% is a good baseline, people didn't. Very few people understood the last paragraph. Okay, and again, the reason for that is that you couldn't put everything into perspective as you were reading the passage, and that is very important. Okay, because as you are actively reading the passage, you will be able to put things in context. Okay. All right. So um, does all of this make sense? Make sense? Doesn't make sense? Do you agree with what I'm saying? Okay, good. Now what I'm going to do is, now that you understand the passage to this degree, I am going to show you each question again. I'm going to give you, say, about 45 seconds for each question. Let's see if you can answer those questions correctly, okay? Or whether your performance changes at all or not, okay? So this is the question, and let me get the poll here. No, wait a minute. So I'm going to change the poll to, and I already have my responses here. Let me just make sure that I capture the initial response. Give me 1 minute, guys. In the meanwhile, why don't you read the question and I will reopen the poll. Okay, last 5 seconds. Okay, I'm closing the poll now. I'm just capturing the responses here. So the performance has improved, but it's still not there where I wanted it to be. Okay, so let us, so what I'm going to do next is I'm going to go over each question one. Okay, and this question, this passage is easily 720 plus level passage. Okay, so all right. So what is this question? According to some advocates of gun control, people own guns because. Now this question is a detailed question, right? Now I would say it's a global detailed question. Why? Because it's talking about gun control advocates, and the author talks about gun control advocates in passage 2, in passage 2, and also he actually, yeah, in paragraph 2 he talks about gun control advocates. So that's where you should be looking at in the passage to find the answer to this question. So I won't say it's a global detailed question. It is it's almost a specific detailed question because you know where to look for. And how do you know that? Because you just did your paragraph summary, right? You did your passage summary and you said that presents the views of GCA in paragraph 2. Now tell me, how many of you knew where to look for? How many of you knew where to look for this information? Good. You knew where to look for this information. All right. So let's let's go right into each of the answer choices. Owning guns ultimately leads to getting rid of sexual inadequacy. Inadequacy. Now, does the passage talk anything about getting rid of this thing? No, it doesn't. So this choice is not correct. Let's look at choice B. Gun owners just want to adjust well in their society. Has the author spoken about, the motivation of gun owners to adjust better in the society? No, he hasn't, right? So, but still, there was 10% of the class who marked choice B as the correct answer. Okay, but there is nothing in the passage that indicates that gun owners want to adjust well. In fact, if you look at your passage summary, gun owners' view is not even presented. Make sense? Do you guys understand why choice B is incorrect? Good. All right, let's look at choice C. Guns have power that can be used against perverts who indulge in crimes such as sexual molestation, which stems from their sexual inadequacy. Now, about 12% of the class marked this as the correct answer. But tell me one thing. Yes, the wording is pretty similar. That is pretty similar is used in the passage. But are you saying that does the author anywhere in the passage say that guns can be used against the perverts? Does the author say that anywhere? Answer the question here. Does the author say that anywhere in the second paragraph, or for that matter in the whole passage, that guns have this kind of power? No. So this answer choice actually utilizes similar terms, and that's what we call in e-GMAT terminology as I-SWOT. That is um, similarly worded answer choice terminology. Okay, so it uses terms from the passage to throw you off, and if you are not very clear with the content in the passage, you will find similar terms, and you will be you will be motivated to answer that, to mark that as the correct answer. But it is presented in a completely different context, not mentioned in the passage. Look at choice D. Owning guns is a decision that is an outcome of some abnormal behavior. Now, this is a reword of the statement in para 2, last sentence. Gun ownership cannot involve real choice because they argue it is actually only a preconditioned manifestation of sexual inadequacy or perversion. Okay. So again, the answer choice is written in a very simplistic term, saying that because of some abnormal behavior. Okay. So choice D is the correct answer. Last choice. Guns are weapons that make people sexually inadequate or perverse. Now over here, this is again I-SWOT. Per the GCA, gun ownership is the display of sexual inadequacy. This choice actually reverses the stated relationship. Okay, and again, there was 17% of you who marked choice E as the correct answer, but again, D is the correct answer. Okay, so again, guys, something in RC, when you understand the passage really well, you understand. So for this question, I would say so for this question, I would say you guys did not. So the first time that you attempted this question, 40% of you answered this question correctly. Okay. When you understood the passage correctly, when we went through the whole detailed analysis, that number went to 50%. So 40% to 50%. Okay, which is good. At least some of you were now, from your improved understanding of the passage, you were now able to answer the question correctly. Now, let's come to the second reason why people falter. They don't understand how to approach this question. Now, when I asked you guys that whether you knew where to look for the information, you said that you said correctly that you were going to look at paragraph 2. So I would say you understood how to approach a detailed question. But still, 50% of you did not mark the correct answer. For those of you who for those of you who fall in that 50% category, you were not able to mark the correct answer because you could not evaluate the answer choice in the appropriate manner. Okay, or because you didn't understand the passage still. Okay, I wouldn't think that you wouldn't be that even after going through that explanation you didn't understand the passage well. So for you guys, I would say that invest the time, understand, how the answer choices are worded. Okay, put in note for fact that these are the ways of creating answer choices. Okay, and again, this kind of goes back to the second way in which you would falter. And let me go back to that slide because it is very important that you understand why people falter, because that's when you can take the necessary actions. Okay, after my explaining the whole passage to you, okay, I would say that your understanding of passage is there. Okay, so this is not a factor for why you didn't mark this question correctly. Okay, I would say the reason why you still made mistakes in this question is because you didn't understand how the incorrect answer choices are created, how to evaluate each and every answer choice. Okay, that's where you faltered in this particular question. Okay, so you need to know that, and that's what we teach in the RC course. We give you detailed frameworks of how to evaluate answer choices. I mean, how test makers create these incorrect answer choices to throw you off. Okay, so it's very important for you to recognize that. Okay, make sense? Okay, so with this, let's move on to question number 2. At this point in time, I want to ask you, what do you guys think so far? Any learnings for you guys? We have done one full passage. We have done one question for that passage. Okay, it seems you guys are tired. I'm not seeing that many responses. Okay, good, good. Yes, guys, and again, I'm giving you another chance to answer these questions because I want to make sure you guys understand when is it that it's the comprehension of passage is absolutely critical. Okay, but now that I've dissected the whole passage, you understand the passage very well. You know the paragraph summaries. You understand all of that very well. Now I'm trying to decouple that. Is there something else also impacting your RC performance that you need to work on? Okay, because that's what I want you to take away from this. First takeaway here clearly is that you have to apply the reading strategies. You should get completely immersed. Another key takeaway here is, as we saw in question number 1, that you need to evaluate the answer choices. You need to know how the test makers create incorrect answer choices, and given that information, given what we teach in the RC course about the different kinds of incorrect answer choices, you should be able to evaluate each and every answer choice that is given to you in the light of that. Okay, that's when you will be able to do all of this in the right way. Okay, and guys, again, you keep coming back to timing. Right today, you can't do this in less than 4 minutes, not at all. Okay, but yes, once you practice, that's what I want you to practice on. Once you practice, this will become a second nature to you, and this will lead to improved accuracy in reduced time. Okay, all right, so with this, let's get into question number 2. So I'm going to change the view now and we'll move on to question number 2. I want you to take another stab at it and let go. Okay, so why don't you read the question in the meanwhile, and let me capture the results here. Okay, so I'm going to reopen this and put in your responses now. Guys, I'm going to give you a clue here. Think about what the last paragraph is doing when you're thinking about main point. Okay, 5 more seconds. Okay, I'm going to end the poll now. Yes, I'm going to end the poll. I was waiting for the number to reach 60%. Okay, so it's just, so I see that your performance has improved, but not as much as I expected. So people have gone, there are a few people who have changed from choices A, B, and D to choice C, which is the correct answer. Choice C is the correct answer here. But still, I see a lot of love for choice E. Okay, choice E is clearly incorrect. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to ask you a question here. Mark choice E as the correct answer. Tell me, what's does choice E capture the complete intent? Actually, no. So let me just go over this. So we read in paragraph one that, so in paragraphs 1, 2, and 3, you're basically talking about how the GCA argument regarding gun owners is not justified, right? And then he's basically talking about how such argument is being used against the GCA. Okay, paragraph 4 is talking about that. Okay, so choices C and E were actually pretty close choices. And how were they close? They were close because choice E actually only captures partial assent as indicated in paragraphs 1, 2, and 3. Okay, so it doesn't capture the last paragraph, which is how the argument has led to diminishing the merits of their agenda. Whose agenda are we talking about? Gun control advocates. So merits of their agenda, again, that is what GCA is. So remember what paragraph 4 said. Paragraph 4 said that the gun lobby is using the argument presented by the anti-gun rhetoric of GCA against GCA. Okay, and that's what choice C is saying. Choice C is saying, and that was the part that's missing in choice E. Okay, choice C actually has that part which says that it puts forth the inherent flaw in the argument proposed by GCA. That's what is being done in paragraphs 1, 2, and 3, and it also clarifies how this faulty argument in this argument has led to diminishing their agenda. Okay, that's why choice C is correct and choice E is not correct, because choice E is basically just saying that the author wants to criticize the argument proposed by GCE on the basis that they are overly harsh in their estimate of the motivations of gun owners. It only captures the first 3 paragraphs. Is this point clear? So again, guys, for those of you who marked choice E as the correct, again, the performance of this question was 52% of you marked this question correct the first time you answered it. Okay, this time around, with the improved understanding, 61% of you marked this question correct. So I'm happy to see that improvement. Okay, but the fact that still 22% of you marked choice E as the correct answer tells me that you guys, again, for those of you who marked choice E, it tells me that even though you understood the passage well, you don't have the right skill to evaluate the answer choices in the light of the understanding of passage. So probably it may be one of two things. Either you don't know how to arrive at the main point by using the paragraph summaries, okay, and for because we didn't really get to the main, because I didn't do that analysis of main point evaluation. Okay, and for this again, even if you don't have access to the e-GMAT RC course, even if you haven't purchased Verbal Online or our e-GMAT RC course, I urge you to go ahead and try out the free trial for RC course. In that free trial, we have the main point concept and practice files. I am pretty sure once you go through the main point concept file and the application file, you will be able to understand how to arrive at the main point, given you understand the paragraph summaries, given that you understand the passage and you arrive at the paragraph summaries. Because there is that extra step that you have to do to get from the paragraph summaries to the main point. And that is what we teach in our main point concept files. Okay. We also then teach you how to evaluate the answer choices. Okay. I'm not sure if the evaluation of answer choices is part of the free trial or not, but definitely how to arrive at the main point from the paragraph summary, that is definitely in the in the free trial. Okay, so definitely go ahead and review that so that you get your so that you understand the main point questions. At least one kind of question will be out of the way. Okay. It's actually covered in the application file. So yes, so I mean, in the free trial, we have an application file in which we do cover about, in which we do talk about the incorrect answer choices. Okay. All right. So with this, let's move on to our last question in this passage, the inference question. So again, pardon for our little error here in the question stem. Each of the following can be inferred from the passage except. So again, as I mentioned last time, you look at these five choices and you have to select the choice that cannot be inferred from the passage. Okay, so I'm going to open the poll again and take another stab at it. Hopefully you should be able to answer this question correctly this time around. So let's see. Passage 1. Why don't I see the question? Okay, last 5 seconds. Okay, I'm going to close the poll now. So again, the performance has improved. Choice. Wait, just trying to see here. Let's go back here. I didn't get the results. I didn't capture the results correctly last time around. Just give me a minute, guys. Okay, no, I did capture the results correctly. So in this question, I'm going to give you a hint and I want you to go back and revisit this question because I haven't seen an improved performance in this one. Pay attention to, actually, no, let me just give you the analysis here. Let's go back here. Okay, can everyone see the presentation? Good, okay. All right, so it's a global inference question. When I say global inference, what I mean is that you have to find out which of the sentence, which choice cannot be inferred from the passage. So what you have to do is you have to solve this question using POE. You cannot pre-think here. Yes, you can pre-think an inference just to make sure that you understand the passage appropriately, but truly speaking, you have to do POE here. So you look at each choice and you see if there is, if this choice can be inferred from the passage or not. So what this question requires you to do, the kind of skill set that you need to have after you've understood the passage appropriately, is how to draw inferences. And believe me, it's a skill to you need to learn how to draw inferences from the passage. And that's what we teach in our RC inference concept files. How is it that given what you understand from the passage, how is it that you can, look at one sentence, how is it that you can reword that and arrive at an inference? Or how is it that you can combine two statements in a passage to arrive at a particular inference, okay? Or another kind of inference, you have a very generic instance specified in the passage. How is it that you can draw a specific inference from it? Or another thing, you have a very specific instance in the passage. How is it that you can arrive at a generic inference from it? All of this we teach in our inference concept files. In fact, we have 2 or 3 inference concept files in which we teach each of these different kinds of inferences, and we have multiple examples through which we tell you how to draw inferences. So the reason why I'm telling you all of this is because this question, even after you understood the passage so very well, still you are not able to answer. Only 14% of you mark the correct answer choice. Okay, so for remaining 86% of you, you really need to build upon your inference skills, because this is after you have understood the passage. Okay, so clearly there is something majorly lacking in your inference drawing skills. Okay, so some gun control advocates look at gun owners as people lacking mental abilities to take proper decisions. Clearly, this can be inferred from where? Paragraph 3, this whole part here. Look at choice B. Only 14% of you mark choice B as the correct answer. Why? Remaining you felt that, okay, this can be inferred because of the way the similar terms are used. Some gun control activists are of the opinion that using a gun is very similar to driving a car rashly. Remember, from the passage, what said was, it clearly said just owning a gun is analogous to driving the car in inebriated condition. Okay, so this choice cannot be inferred. Okay, very, very important point. Okay, this is a very classic way of creating in this case an incorrect inference. Okay, it's a very classic case of that. And again, that's what we teach you in our inference concept files. How is it that the author, that the GMAT test creators create these incorrect answer choices? Okay, so very, very important. Choice C, there are possible gun control proposals that do not solely rely on taking away guns from gun owners. That is absolutely can be inferred. That's the first line of your paragraph 4. Of course, disarmament is not the only possible control scheme. Choice D, gun owners show excessive emotions toward controls over possession of guns. Definitely it can be inferred. And in fact, majority of you, about 42%, I think, of you mark choice D as the correct answer. But remember, the passage starts with the statement, it is a truism to say that gun owners hysterically oppose controls. Okay, that part clearly says that gun owners have excessive emotions towards controls over possession of guns. Okay, choice E, some gun control advocates do not believe that controls over the possession of guns interferes with people's right to freedom. It can definitely be inferred. Paragraph 2, that's where you can get the inference from. Okay, so again, choice B is the correct answer here. So once again, what's the optimum approach for RC? Read and comprehend the passage well enough, create passage summary, look at the question, pre-think the answer, understand how GMAT creates incorrect answer choices, use the information in the answer choice in the context of the passage, and then eliminate the answer choices by doing POE. Okay, so apply these key reading strategies. Absolutely, absolutely vital. You will not be able to apply these strategies right away in the timely manner. You cannot walk and run at the same time. I mean, you cannot learn how to run without learning how to walk. So you will take your time. Don't even look at a clock when you are reading a passage. Try to apply all these strategies. Do your due diligence when you are learning the process. It will take time for you to master the process, but believe in the process. You saw that today. If you don't have the right level of understanding of the passage, there's no point in hurrying with the time. I mean, there's no point in doing that if you can't answer the question correctly. And for you to answer the question correctly, you have to understand the passage well. That is the key. There are no shortcuts. There is no looking at the first line, last line. You guys applied your process on this passage. That didn't work. Okay, right? So you have to understand that applying the reading strategies is the only way to understanding the passage to the appropriate degree. Okay, with this, we don't have the time at all for passage 2. You will have it in this packet, so you can go back and look at passage 2. But let's just conclude the session, and let me welcome Rajat back into the session. Rajat, are you there?
I want to just come over to your office itself.
Okay, sure. So give us a minute, guys, and then Rajat is going to take over, and and you can ask him any questions that you may have. Before that, how was this session? I would definitely actually, you know what? I do want to hear from you. What is the one takeaway that you have from this session? No, Rajat did not fall asleep. So again, type in over here, what is the one takeaway that you have, one or maybe two takeaways that you have from this session? Um, Very interesting. I read one response where it said owning guns is good. Okay, that wasn't the takeaway that I was expecting, but yeah, it was interesting to see that. So good, guys. I'm really very happy to see your responses here. Immerse in the passage and summarize. Cut short the long sentences. Understanding is the key. Very good explanations. Thank you. How to break the sentences. Good. Slowly reading is one takeaway. Good. I'm really glad to see your responses. Okay, so I believe my job here is done. You guys have the right approach now. It's just a matter of how you learn that approach, and that's where Mr. Rajat is going to talk about how you can use e-GMAT RC course to help you master RC. But the first and the most important thing is done, that you understand what is it that you need to do. So I think while Rajat is talking, if you could just rate the session, that would be really good. So let me open the poll. Rate the session, 10 being very good and 1 being very bad. And thank you, guys. You've been a wonderful audience. I've thoroughly enjoyed conducting this session, and I look forward to great success stories from you guys. Just be sure to follow the reading strategies and to follow the right approach. Over to you, Rajat.
All right, thank you, Payal. So I think first of all, I'd like to really say this is one of the few free sessions that I haven't conducted and that I've been a part of all throughout, and I enjoyed this session as well. And one thing that I want to kind of say is, when we create a free session or even a paid session, it's an effort of not just the person who's conducting the session, but also a lot of people who work in the background. So in this case, it's Neeti who's worked very hard on this session, and Neeti who's joined e-GMAT about 2 months ago. And so this is, I think, one of the first sessions that she's worked on. And
in fact, one of you said, what is the source of this passage? So Neeti is the source of this passage.
Okay, but coming back to to this session, I think I'd like to kind of call the passage that we read in this session as an example of baptism by fire. It was a difficult passage. The questions were challenging. Um, and the reason why we chose this passage was because when you advocate a process, when you teach a process, you've got to apply it to the easy passages as well as the difficult passages, and you've got to show that it works. And at e-GMAT, we focus a lot on doing that. And I think through this, one passage, three questions, you would have understood how to apply the reading strategies to the most challenging of passages. You would have understood the kind of traps and answer choices that GMAT puts across, and how you fall into those traps. You would have understood the kind of convoluted answer choices that they create. And our goal was to really give you that knowledge through this one simple example, and you'll have that recording available for you. But now, what do you do next? And because it's very important that you understand what to do next, because if you want to benefit from this session, you've got to take the right appropriate steps. The first and most foremost thing is that you want to make sure that you learn the reading strategies and get into a habit of applying them. Okay, you can take the learnings from this session, take a few passages, apply the reading strategies over there. Those who are e-GMAT students, make sure you go through the reading strategies concepts again. Make sure you go through the practice files and the application files again and apply those. The second thing that you want to make sure is once you've understood the passage, you master the approach to efficiently answer various questions. So make sure you go through the various concept files and understand the various kinds of inferences and detailed question types that could be there on the GMAT. Understanding how to approach various question types not only allows you to get to the right answer, but also make sure that you do that efficiently. A lot of you asked about timing. And I think a lot of you said, if we go into this kind of detail while reading the passage, would we be able to do that in less than six minutes or so? And one thing that I really tell this guys is, on GMAT, timing is an outcome of the development of your core skills. It's not a skill that you practice for. And so the parallel, if I were to really, if you focus on reading strategies, your timing will fall into place. The parallel that I would really just say is, if you were on a race course and you were trying to, and if you wanted to finish a lap as fast as possible, and I take the race course example because that's where timing is very key. You won't focus on saying, okay, I'm going to finish the lap. What you focus on is making sure that you take every turn with the right approach. And as long as you do that, as long as you accelerate and decelerate at the right time, as long as you make sure that your traction at every turn is appropriate, you will finish the lap as fast as you can, as fast as your car can. So make sure you leverage the reading strategies, make sure you master how to apply them, and the timing will be in place. The third thing, timing and accuracy. These two things are dependent on the kind of passages that you practice on. Some of you may be more comfortable with business passages or science passages than with humanities passages. For others, it may be the opposite. Make sure you apply these reading strategies to a variety of passages. They work. We've done that. And the 50 passages in the e-GMAT course where we've applied these reading strategies to prove that. So solve various passages, apply them, and again, when you do that, as you do it successfully, you would get that confidence. And the last thing over here being, for those of you who are e-GMAT Verbal Live Prep students, make sure you attend the live sessions that we have on RC. Practice with the experts, understand their thought process. Make sure you do not miss the RC and verbal workshops. For those of you who are verbal online students, we have the verbal workshop tomorrow. Target time to finish RC on the real exam. Okay, a good question. So I would say it depends on how well you're doing on the other sections. But overall, the target time to finish RC should be depending on the number of words in the passage, between 5 and 7 minutes. And let me get you the PDF. Do we have the PDF, or do we have to create?
It's created. You have to upload it.
Okay. Let me get the PDF, guys, and oops. Okay. Any other questions that you guys have? And one thing that I would really say is, we've had a lot of students who've benefited by applying these reading strategies. Just recently, we had a guy who improved from verbal score of 29 to verbal score of 45. And if you look at his RC section, I think he talks about how he applied these reading strategies. Niti, do you want to add anything to this?
Right. So I'm happy that a lot of you enjoyed doing the passage. I'm getting comments that people think that it was a devilish selection on my part. Just to reiterate what Rajat said, that the idea is to show you how these strategies can work not only on the easier passages, but also on some of the most difficult ones. And our motto is to take you to that level, to push you towards the 40 over barrier. So, yeah, so the idea was that. In terms of going forward, how do we intend to develop on this? I think Rajat will be able to take that question. Rajat, over to you.
Okay, how to develop on this? I think the point number one actually addresses that, and so uh, go through the e-GMAT course, follow the study plan that comes with the RC section or the RC course, whichever course you have, and do the passages accordingly. Master the concepts taught in the specific concept files. Do the passages on varied fields, and um, whenever you can, practice with an expert. Course fees, all right. I think our website actually has that. Let me get you the link to the buy page. And guys, we also have a fresh diagnostic on sentence correction for those of you who are interested in the same. Well, Pi will be taking classes. So at e-GMAT, we have various experts who take various classes. Pi does take a portion of the classes on sentence correction and reading comprehension. I take the classes on critical reasoning. Chiranjeev also takes classes on critical reasoning. If you have 20 days, then I would recommend Verbal Online. It's a course that you can finish in 20 days, and we've had a lot of students who've been very successful in less than 30 days. So here is a set of students who are deeply studying and look at.
RC page link.
RC page link. Oh, here it is. Thank you, Sam. Workshop on RC. Umar, the workshop on RC was last week. Tomorrow is the verbal workshop. If you have 6 months of deep, then definitely verbal live prep. Okay, guys. I also want to make sure that you get access to our brand new diagnostic that we are in the process of launching. I'm going to answer this last question. Piles, can you tell me where the link for that is? Jagat, if you can spend about 120 hours on verbal live prep, go through the recordings, go through all the workshops, then definitely yes. If you cannot spend 120 hours, then I would recommend that you take verbal online. One thing that I always say is, if you want to do something, do it well. Otherwise, do not do it.
Yes, just give us a few seconds. We'll get you your SC diagnostic. The first one.
The first one. All right. Okay, guys. Let's see. Does Verbal Online have workshops? It has the Verbal workshop, Rahul. Again, go to the Verbal Online page, and you can look at the workshop that Verbal Online has. Here's the link for the SC diagnostic, guys. And thank you, Preeti. And Hina, the prerequisites for the verbal workshop tomorrow are that you should have completed most of the e-GMAT courses, course, and you should have taken at least one mock. The first passage that we did was an e-GMAT passage. It was not from from a GMAT prep or any other source. All right, guys, thank you very much. Thank you for taking the time out to attend. And I'm going to direct you guys to the SC diagnostic. Bye bye. Have a good day.